SpaceX launched twin NASA satellites called Tracers on Wednesday to study how the solar wind interacts with Earth's magnetic field, causing space weather that can disrupt satellites, power grids, and communications. The Tracer satellites, built by Boeing, will fly in tandem to better understand how solar energy affects Earth's magnetosphere, which protects the planet from harmful space radiation. Alongside Tracers, 5 other small satellites were also deployed to test new space communication technologies, measure Earth's radiation budget, and study high energy electrons in the Van Allen radiation belts that can damage satellites. The mission, launched from Vandenberg Space Force Base after a 1 day delay due to a power outage, Spaceflight Now has reported. This launch advances research to protect critical space and ground based systems from solar activity. A humanoid robot named Derek had a wild malfunction in a San Francisco lab, flailing wildly while suspended from a crane and causing it to collapse. The incident, which was caught on video, quickly went viral, with staff attributing the chaos to a quote human error involving faulty programming and a delayed emergency stop. DREC, a nimble G1 model from Chinese company Unitree, is designed for robot combat entertainment, piloted remotely via VR, the New York Post has reported. Despite the crash, DREC survived without permanent damage, with the developers joking the robot is, quote, growing up to be a strong boy. French President Emmanuel Macron announced that France will officially recognize the state of Palestine with a formal declaration planned at the UN General Assembly in September. He called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the release of hostages, humanitarian aid, Hamas's demilitarization, and the establishment of a viable Palestinian state that recognizes Israel, ABC News has reported. The move drew strong backlash from both the United States and Israel, with critics calling it a reward for terrorism and a threat to Israel's security. Thai and Cambodian soldiers clashed along their border in a major escalation that left at least 14 dead, mostly civilians, and displaced over 4,000 people. The fighting involved small arms, artillery, rockets, and Thai airstrikes, following a landmine explosion that injured 5 Thai soldiers. Clashes resumed on Friday. This marks a rare military conflict between Asian members, the Associated Press has reported. The UN has urged both sides to show restraint and seek dialogue. Nearly 50 people, including children, are feared dead after an Antonov An-24 passenger plane crashed in Russia. The Soviet-era aircraft, operated by Angara Airlines, vanished from radar during a regional flight and was later found wrecked and on fire on a remote mountainside. No survivors were seen, and preliminary reports indicate all 49 people on board perished. The plane crashed during a second landing attempt, CNN has reported. Investigations are underway, and Russia has declared 3 days of mourning. Social media lit up after photos and videos showed a man dressed as Chuck E. Cheese being arrested by Tallahassee police at a local restaurant, shocking onlookers. The man, later identified as Jermel Jones, a part-time employee, was charged with 3 felonies related to credit card fraud. Police say Jones used a stolen credit card belonging to a customer who had hosted a party at that location. When officers arrived to arrest him, he was still in costume, resisted slightly, and then was taken into custody, the Tallahassee Democrat has reported. Jones has since been released on bond, and Chuck E. Cheese's parent company confirmed disciplinary action was taken. During a visit to the Federal Reserve on Thursday, President Trump clashed with Fed Chair Jerome Powell over the cost of the central bank's ongoing renovation project. Trump claimed that the cost had risen to $3.1 billion, while Powell disputed that figure, saying the higher amount referred to a separate completed building. The renovation, originally estimated at $1.9 billion, has already increased to $2.5 billion and has become a political flashpoint as Trump continues to pressure the Fed to cut interest rates, NPR has reported. Despite the disagreement, Trump struck more of a friendly tone, avoiding direct criticism of Powell. Republican lawmakers are warning of a possible government shutdown this fall after intense partisan clashes over President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act and a $9 billion recessions package have soured relations in Congress. The White House plans to send another round of spending cuts to Congress, but GOP leaders fear it could derail efforts to pass regular appropriations bills before government funding expires in September. Democrats, still angry over being sidelined in recent legislation, are expected to push back hard, The Hill has reported. Senate Republicans stressed the need for bipartisan cooperation, as 60 votes will be required in the Senate to pass any funding package. Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba denied reports that he plans to resign following a historic election defeat in which his ruling coalition lost its majority in both houses of parliament. Despite growing pressure to step down, Prime Minister Ishiba said he intends to remain in office to oversee the implementation of a new tariff agreement with the United States. The trade deal, which reduces tariffs on Japanese exports, is seen as a key priority. While media reports suggest he may resign by the end of July, Ishiba insisted no such decision has been made, the Associated Press has reported. The election loss reflects growing voter dissatisfaction, especially among younger voters, with rising living costs and a government seen as favoring older generations. 3 police officers in Lorain, Ohio were shot, too critically, when a gunman ambushed them as they ate lunch in their patrol cars. The suspect, a 28-year-old man from Lorain, opened fire with a high-powered rifle and then was killed at the scene. The attack occurred in an industrial park and appeared to be premeditated, with the gunman lying in wait. A third officer was shot while responding to the scene. The incident is under an investigation, NBC News has reported. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine called it a targeted attack on law enforcement. A federal judge in Florida denied a Justice Department request to unseal grand jury records from Epstein investigations in 2005 and 2007, citing strict legal limits on disclosing such materials. The judge also rejected transferring the matter to New York, where similar DOJ requests are under review. Separately, a New York judge denied Ghislaine Maxwell's request to review Epstein-related grand jury testimony, stating she failed to show a compelling need, ABC News has reported. Both decisions highlight the legal hurdles in releasing sealed records tied to the Epstein case. A House Oversight Subcommittee voted to subpoena Bill and Hillary Clinton, along with several former Justice Department officials, over alleged ties to Jeffrey Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. The motion, introduced by Representative Scott Perry, a Republican from Pennsylvania, aims to expand the investigation into Maxwell. Formal subpoenas have not yet been issued but are expected. The subcommittee also moved to obtain DOJ communications involving Biden administration officials related to the Epstein case, the New York Post has reported. Ghislaine Maxwell, currently serving a 20-year sentence, has been subpoenaed to testify before the committee on August the 11th. Taiwan is set to vote Saturday on a major recall campaign targeting 24 opposition Nationalist Party lawmakers, driven by frustration over legislative gridlock and concerns about China's influence. The ruling Democratic Progressive Party, which supports Taiwan independence, backs the effort in hopes of gaining a legislative majority after winning the presidency but falling short in parliament. The KMT and allies, who currently hold a slim majority, oppose the recalls, calling them a power grab, the Associated Press reports. The campaign highlights deep divisions on how to handle relations with China, with critics accusing China-friendly politicians of undermining Taiwan's democracy. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reversed controversial changes that placed anti-corruption agencies under the control of the Prosecutor General, following public protest and international backlash. The original law, signed Tuesday, was criticized for undermining the agency's independence. On Thursday, Zelensky introduced a new bill to undo the move, though it still needs parliamentary approval, which may face delays from his own MPs. The reversal came after domestic protest and warnings from European partners that the changes could jeopardize Ukraine's EU membership bid and foreign aid, Politico has reported. Critics say the move was a self-created crisis aimed at weakening oversight. The European Central Bank held interest rates steady on Thursday amid significant economic uncertainty and ongoing EU-US trade negotiations. After cutting rates multiple times this year, from 3% in January to 2% in June, the ECB paused as inflation hit its 2% target last month. The future of EU-US trade remains uncertain, with potential tariffs looming, CNBC has reported. ECB officials suggest inflation control efforts are nearly complete, but remain cautious about medium-term risks. A series of drone attacks have targeted oil fields in Iraq's semi-autonomous Kurdish region, damaging infrastructure but causing no injuries. Norwegian company DNO, ASA, and a U.S.-operated field were among those affected, leading to a temporary shutdown. No group has claimed responsibility, but Kurdish officials suspect the attacks aimed to disrupt the region's economy and the energy sector. Tensions have risen between Kurdish authorities and Baghdad, with earlier accusations pointing to Iran-backed militias, the Associated Press has reported. Iraqi officials have denied those claims, warning they could destabilize the country further. In parts of Mexico, organized crime groups have taken control of hospitals and forced medical staff to treat wounded cartel members under the threat of violence. This, according to doctors speaking anonymously. In Guanajuato, a doctor described being threatened at gunpoint and coerced into treating injured hitmen from the Jalisco New Generation cartel. While official data shows a drop in homicides under President Claudia Sheinbaum, experts warn this may reflect cartels hiding bodies rather than reduced violence. Disappearances have surged, with 4,010 reported in her first 100 days in office, NBC News has reported. Analysts say cartels are using fear, impunity, and territorial control to maintain power. The Syrian Government Committee has confirmed that over 1,400 people, mostly Alawite civilians, were killed during sectarian violence in the country's coastal region in March. The investigation identified 298 suspects in serious crimes including murder, torture, and looting, with 37 arrests made so far. While government forces were accused of summary executions, the report found no evidence the military leadership ordered attacks on the Alawite community, Al Jazeera has reported. The findings raised concerns about the new government's ability to control sectarian tensions following the December ousting of former President Bashar al-Assad. Fugitive Moldovan oligarch Vladimir Plahotniuc, wanted for his role in a $1 billion bank fraud and other corruption charges, was detained in Greece, Moldovan police announced. Plahotniuc, who fled Moldova in 2019, had been on Interpol's international wanted list. He is accused of fraud, money laundering, and leading a criminal organization. Moldovan authorities are working to secure his extradition, the Associated Press has reported. Once one of Moldova's most powerful figures, Plahotniuc has also been sanctioned by the United States and the United Kingdom for corruption and election interference. The university has disciplined over 70 students for participating in pro-Palestinian protest, including a May demonstration at Butler Library and another during last year's alumni weekend. Sanctions include multi-year suspensions, expulsions, and degree revocations. A student group, Columbia University Apartheid Divest, said students were required to apologize to return or face expulsion. The crackdown follows pressure from the Trump administration, which cut federal funding and demanded stricter campus policies, NBC News has reported. The protests, sparked by the war in Gaza, led to the arrest of at least 80 people and injuries to security staff, making Columbia a national focal point for campus activism. The GOP-led House Oversight Committee plans to subpoena convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell for testimony about Jeffrey Epstein's case, quote, as soon as possible. Committee Chairman James Comer will coordinate with the DOJ and the Bureau of Prisons to schedule the deposition. Despite bipartisan pressure, GOP leadership has delayed releasing more Epstein-related information. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche is meeting with Maxwell's legal team soon. Maxwell, serving 20 years in prison, is seen as a key figure in the Epstein case, the New York Post reports. Meanwhile, House GOP has blocked votes on releasing the Epstein files, citing no political games and prioritizing justice for all involved. Former President Barack Obama has denied President Donald Trump's recent claim that he was the, quote, ringleader behind the Trump-Russia investigation, calling the accusation, quote, bizarre and a, quote, weak attempt at distraction. The rare statement from Obama's office followed Trump's renewed push to investigate Obama and other former officials, based on newly declassified documents alleging the Obama administration politicized intelligence to create the Trump-Russia collusion narrative. Trump also accused Hillary Clinton and her allies of orchestrating the effort, citing the discredited Steele dossier. Multiple investigations, including the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee's 2020 report, concluded Russia interfered in the 2016 election but found no criminal conspiracy with the Trump campaign, Fox News has reported. The controversy has reignited calls in Congress to release more Epstein-related files and intensified partisan divisions over the origins of the Russia probe. Fernando Ramirez, a 29-year-old convicted felon, has been indicted on 74 felony charges, 37 counts each of attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon, after allegedly driving his car into a crowd outside a Los Angeles nightclub that injured 37 people. The victims, mostly women, were waiting to enter the Vermont Hollywood nightclub when Ramirez plowed through them in a Nissan Versa. 8 suffered serious injuries. Ramirez, who has a long criminal history and was on parole at the time, was shot by a bystander during the incident, Fox News has reported. He faces life in prison if convicted. Michael Gann, 55, of Inwood, New York, faces federal charges for allegedly building and hiding homemade bombs across Manhattan, including on subway tracks and residential rooftops. Prosecutors say Gann constructed at least 7 improvised explosive devices, or IEDs, using chemicals bought online, and then threw one into Williamsburg Bridge subway tracks. He was arrested on June the 5th with another device in his possession. Authorities credit swift law enforcement action for preventing potential tragedy, Fox News reported. Gann faces multiple charges, including attempted destruction of property with explosives, and could face up to 40 years in prison if convicted. He was mauled by a brown bear while hiking the Basher Trail in Alaska's Chugach Mountains on Tuesday. She called 911 and was later rescued by helicopter. Her injuries are non-life-threatening. The bear ran off after the attack and has not been found. Authorities have closed the area and are searching for the animal, the Associated Press has reported. Officials are urging hikers to be prepared, carry bear spray, and avoid trails near Stuckagen Heights for now. Arrested and charged with second-degree murder after a woman was found dead in a Shelby Township, Michigan apartment following a 911 hang-up call. Police responded to the call early Saturday and were met by 29-year-old Terrence Lamar Bowie, who admitted there was a body inside. A 27-year-old woman, known to Bowie, was found dead in a bedroom. Authorities determined it was a homicide. Bowie was then charged with tampering with the crime scene and is being held on a $2 million bond, ABC News has reported. Police confirmed the act was not random. 9-year-old Canadian girl, Melina Fredolin, reported kidnapped in upstate New York, was found dead Sunday near the New York-Vermont border. Authorities revealed she had not been abducted and found inconsistencies in her father's story. An Amber Alert and an extensive search were launched after the father's initial claim, but he was arrested in connection with her death, ABC7 News has reported. The investigation is ongoing, and details about the cause of death or the charges have not yet been released. Search is ongoing in Oregon after 6 people were swept over Dillon Falls on the Deschutes River on Saturday. 1 person died at the scene, 3 were hospitalized, and 2 remain missing. Rescue teams, including drones, boats, and canine units, are actively searching for the missing individuals. The 15-foot waterfall features dangerous rapids and authorities have urged caution, Fox News has reported. The victims' identities have not yet been released, pending family notification. Neolithic-era pyramids, known as giants' graves, have been discovered in Poland. Built around 5,500 years ago by the funnel beaker culture, these elongated earth mounds, lined with massive stones, served as tombs for important community figures. Despite stone removal over time, the pyramids retain features like stone enclosures and east-facing entrances, possibly linked to sun worship, ArtNet has reported. Researchers plan full excavations to explore burial goods and better understand these societies, which honored leaders or shamans through these monumental tombs. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey plans to appeal after losing the local Democratic Farmer Labor Party endorsement to progressive challenger State Senator Omar Fattah. Fattah won about 60% of delegate support in a party endorsement process marked by technical issues and delays, which Frey's camp called flawed and irregular. The party endorsement, the first of a mayoral candidate in 16 years, could boost Fattah's bid in the city's ranked choice election. Frey argues the decision should be made by all voters, not just delegates, and looks forward to competing in the November election, The Hill has reported. Fattah praised the endorsement as a call for change in Minneapolis politics. Subway has named Jonathan Fitzpatrick, a former Burger King executive and current CEO of Rourke-owned Driven Brands, as its new CEO starting on July the 28th. Fitzpatrick is the first CEO hired since Subway was acquired by private equity firm Rourke Capital in 2024. Subway, one of the world's largest restaurant chains, has faced declining sales to rivals like Jersey Mike's and Firehouse Subs, the Associated Press has reported. Rourke plans to modernize Subway and expand internationally under Fitzpatrick's leadership. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley released declassified documents criticizing the FBI's investigation of Hillary Clinton's private email server, saying the agency, quote, failed to fully investigate and showed negligence under then-Director James Comey. The documents reveal that key evidence, including sensitive information on thumb drives, was never properly examined. Grassley accused the FBI of a politically biased approach favoring Clinton, contrasting it with its aggressive probe into the Trump-Russia collusion investigation. The release follows claims by former Representative Tulsi Gabbard that Obama-era officials politicized intelligence to target Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, Fox News has reported. Grassley called for continued transparency and investigation into the matter's national security impact. The House will not vote on a resolution demanding the release of Jeffrey Epstein-related documents before the August recess. Speaker Mike Johnson announced that on Monday. Though the House Rules Committee advanced the measure last week amid GOP pressure, Johnson said he wants to give the Trump administration more time to act, as President Trump ordered Attorney General Pam Bondi to request the unsealing of grand jury transcripts. Johnson emphasized alignment with the president on transparency and dismissed a discharge petition effort by some Republicans as a political stunt, The Hill has reported. However, frustration remains among GOP members, including Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who warned that the party's base demands full disclosure, not partial information. Stellantis, the maker of Jeep, reported that President Trump's tariffs have cost the company nearly $350 million in the first half of 2025, with total losses expected to reach $2.7 billion due to tariffs, production cuts, and compliance costs. North American sales dropped 25% compared to last year, partly due to reduced imports impacted by the 25% tariffs on vehicles and parts that began in April. The tariffs forced Stellantis to pause production at plants in Canada and Mexico, leading to layoffs of 900 U.S. workers, ABC News has reported. Despite some easing of the tariffs, Stellantis continues to feel the financial strain, with the company's new CEO emphasizing a push for higher standards amid ongoing challenges. PepsiCo announced that it will launch a prebiotic cola under the Pepsi brand this fall, following its $1.95 billion acquisition of prebiotic soda maker Poppi. The new Pepsi Prebiotic Cola contains 3 grams of prebiotic fiber and 5 grams of cane sugar, aiming to attract health-conscious consumers as traditional soda sales decline. The drink will be available online this fall and in stores next year, CNBC has reported. Meanwhile, Coca-Cola recently introduced its own prebiotic soda, Simply Pop, as both companies tap into the growing functional beverage trend. Earth is spinning faster this summer, causing days to be slightly shorter by about 1.3 milliseconds. July the 10th marked the shortest day so far, with even shorter days expected on July the 22nd and August the 5th. And while these tiny changes don't impact daily life, they can affect technology like satellites and computers, so scientists track them using highly precise atomic clocks. Since 1972, Earth's rotation has sped up enough to slow the need for leap seconds, extra seconds added to keep atomic time and Earth's rotation in sync, CNN has reported. With Earth continuing to speed up, experts predict a possible negative leap second, or removing a second, might be needed before leap seconds are phased out by the year 2035. Japan's National Astronomical Observatory discovered a small distant object named 2023 KQ-14 orbiting beyond Pluto. Classified as a sednoid due to its elongated orbit far from the Sun, its unique path challenges the existing Planet 9 theory, which suggests a hidden massive planet influences such distant bodies. Scientists now consider that Planet 9 might have existed but was later ejected, causing these unusual orbits, the Register has reported. The discovery hints at extraordinary events in the early part of our solar system. The ruling coalition lost its majority in the upper house after Sunday's election, with Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba's Liberal Democratic Party and its partner Komeito falling 3 seats short of the 50 needed to maintain control. The defeat follows an earlier loss of the lower house and deals another blow to Ishiba's minority government, which faces pressure amid high-stakes trade talks with the United States. The right-wing populist Sansei Party made significant gains, winning 14 new seats by tapping into public frustration over inflation and immigration, Al Jazeera has reported. Prime Minister Ishiba said he would remain in office despite the setback. A study suggests that moon soil could help sustain life by supporting the extraction of water and the production of oxygen and fuel. Researchers at the Chinese University of Hong Kong developed a method that uses solar heat to convert lunar soil and CO2 into usable resources. Published in Joel, the study highlights potential cost savings for future space missions, noting that sending just 1 gallon of water to the moon cost about $83,000, Euronews has reported. However, challenges remain due to the moon's harsh environment and limited CO2 from astronauts, which may not meet all resource needs. The U.S. housing market is cooling as overinflated home prices, high mortgage rates, rising inventory, and weakening demand take their toll. Home price growth slowed to 1.3% in June, its lowest in 2 years, while nearly 1/3 of major markets are seeing annual price declines of at least 1%. Inventory rose 29% from last year, though gains are tapering. High mortgage rates, averaging in the high 6% range, are also dampening demand, CNBC reported. Regional trends vary. Prices are rising in the Northeast and Midwest, but falling in the South and in the West, with Cape Coral, Florida seeing the steepest drop at over 9%. Bangladesh Air Force training jet crashed into Milestone School and College on Monday afternoon, killing the pilot and at least 19 others, mostly students. The Chinese-made F-7BGI aircraft experienced a technical malfunction shortly after taking off and then crashed into the school, sparking a fire. Over 170 students were injured, many with burns. Desperate rescue efforts followed, with emotional scenes at hospitals and the crash site. Authorities pledged a full investigation, and a national day of mourning was declared, NPR has reported. It is the deadliest plane crash in recent memory. Launched one of its largest aerial assaults on Ukraine in months, killing 2 and injuring 15 just hours before a NATO-led meeting on military aid for Ukraine. The overnight attack on Kyiv involved hundreds of drones and missiles, highlighting Ukraine's urgent need for air defense systems like the US-made Patriot. The virtual meeting, chaired by the United Kingdom and German defense ministers, comes amid U.S. President Donald Trump's new plan for NATO allies to supply weapons to Ukraine, NBC News has reported. While discussions are underway, major deliveries have yet to occur. Ukraine has also proposed renewed peace talks, though no date is set. Former Ukrainian anti-organized crime official was found dead in a swimming pool in Spain on June the 29th. Authorities have not ruled out foul play, though no signs of violence were found. His death occurred at the same apartment complex where a Russian defector pilot was assassinated back in February of 2024. The Ukrainian defector had lived there for 16 months and had a background in Ukraine's interior ministry during the 1990s, CBS News reported. The incident adds suspicions around the resort town, which hosts many Russian and Ukrainian foreigners. Ukrainian authorities have yet to comment publicly. 13 people have been arrested in Pakistan's Balochistan province after a video showed the brutal honor killing of a couple for marrying against their family's wishes. The footage, showing the woman being shot after asking to be killed respectfully, sparked national outrage. Authorities identified the perpetrators, including a tribal elder who ordered the killings, and are searching for 9 more suspects. China has begun, The Guardian has reported. Activists condemned the rising number of honor killings, 405 reported in 2024, and criticized the state's failure to curb the influence of tribal and feudal leaders, who often justify or shield such crimes. The administration has released over 230,000 pages of declassified documents related to the 1968 assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., marking what U.S. intelligence officials called an unprecedented move toward transparency. The files, sealed since 1977, detail the FBI's extensive surveillance and disinformation campaign against King under J. Edgar Hoover. King's children, who were given advanced access, emphasized the personal and historical weight of the records, Al Jazeera has reported. While it remains unclear if the release reveals new information about King's murder, it highlights long-standing concerns about government efforts to undermine the civil rights leader and his movement. Announced the withdrawal of 700 U.S. Marines from Los Angeles, ending their deployment in response to recent protests. Mobilized in June to protect federal property, the Marines' presence was intended to reinforce order, though they were barred from law enforcement duties. Their deployment, along with 2,000 California National Guard troops, drew strong criticism from California leaders, who called it a political overreach by the Trump administration, CNN has reported. California Governor Gavin Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass condemned the militarization of the response, while the Pentagon estimated the operation's cost at $134 million. China has begun construction on what will be the world's largest hydropower dam on the Yarlung-Zangbo River in Tibet, a $170 billion project aimed at boosting renewable energy and reducing carbon emissions. Premier Li Qiang called it a, quote, project of the century, emphasizing ecological protection. The dam, consisting of 5 cascade stations, is expected to generate 300 billion kilowatt hours annually. While China claims minimal environmental and downstream impact, India, Bangladesh, and several NGOs warn it could harm the Tibetan ecosystem and disrupt livelihoods downstream, NBC News has reported. The dam also supports China's carbon neutrality goals and economic development in Tibet. A federal appeals court has overturned the conviction of Pedro Hernandez, who was found guilty in 2017 of kidnapping and murdering 6-year-old Atan Patz in 1979. The court ruled Hernandez must be retried or released, citing improper jury instructions related to his confessions. Hernandez, who has a history of mental illness, initially confessed after hours of unrecorded police questioning. His lawyers argued the confession was coerced. Etan's disappearance sparked national attention as one of the first missing child cases featured on milk cartons, NBC News has reported. The Manhattan DA's office is reviewing the decision. Etan's body was never found. Typhoon Haifa caused widespread disruption across southern China and parts of Asia on Sunday, grounding over 400 flights in Hong Kong and affecting around 80,000 passengers. The storm made landfall in southern China after brushing past Hong Kong. At least 26 people in Hong Kong sought medical care and over 250 took refuge in shelters. In the Philippines, Typhoon Haifa intensified monsoon rains, killing one and displacing over 43,000 people, the Associated Press reported. Meanwhile, heavy rains in South Korea left 14 dead and 12 missing. 160 people were rescued and 3 confirmed dead after the KM Barcelona 5 passenger ferry caught fire off Indonesia's coast on Sunday. Rescuers, Coast Guard ships, and local fishermen helped evacuate passengers, many of whom jumped into the sea. Initial reports of 5 deaths were revised to 3, including a pregnant woman, after 2 survivors were found alive, the Associated Press has reported. The ferry was carrying more people than listed on its manifest, a common issue in Indonesia, where ferry accidents are frequent due to poor safety enforcement. Torrential rains in South Korea have killed at least 18 people and left 9 missing, with over 14,000 residents forced to evacuate due to floods, landslides, and collapsed homes. The downpours, which began on July the 16th, brought record rainfall to central and southern regions. The military has deployed 2,500 troops to assist with recovery. Experts say the unusually late monsoon caught many areas unprepared, highlighting the growing impact of climate change, Al Jazeera has reported. As the rains subside, the country now faces an incoming heat wave, with temperatures forecast to exceed seasonal averages. A Delta connection flight operated by SkyWest made an abrupt maneuver to avoid a potential mid-air collision with a B-52 bomber while approaching Minot, North Dakota on July the 18th. The pilot apologized to passengers, calling it a, quote, aggressive maneuver that was done for safety. The flight had been cleared for landing when the B-52 suddenly appeared in its path. It's unclear how close the 2 aircraft came. The Air Force and SkyWest are both investigating the incident, ABC News has reported. Minot is home to an Air Force base with B-52 bombers, one of which had conducted a flyover nearby that evening. At least 35 people died and several remain missing after a tourist boat capsized in Vietnam's Ha Long Bay during a sudden storm. The vessel, Wonder Seas, was carrying 53 people, mostly Vietnamese families, when it overturned amid hail, heavy rain, and lightning. 10 survivors have been rescued, including a 10-year-old boy found trapped in an air pocket. At least 8 of the victims were children. Poor weather has hampered rescue efforts, and authorities have launched an investigation. The Prime Minister offered condolences and vowed accountability, the BBC reported. Ha Long Bay is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and popular tourist destination. The number of people missing after Texas's catastrophic July 4th flooding has dropped from 160 to 3, officials in Kerr County announced, as search efforts entered their 3rd week. The flooding killed at least 135 people, including 107 in Kerr County, with children among the victims at a summer camp along the Guadalupe River. Many initially reported missing have since been confirmed safe. A special legislative session will begin Monday to address the disaster, with a hearing planned in Kerr County on July the 31st, Axios has reported. Experts are saying that climate change likely intensified the extreme rainfall that caused the flooding. Federal investigators are probing an accident in San Jose, California, where a car crashed into a post office early Sunday, sparking a fire. No injuries were reported, but the building was heavily damaged. The driver, Richard Tillman, brother of late NFL player and Army Ranger Pat Tillman, was arrested and booked on suspicion of arson. Authorities are also investigating spray painted messages on the building and reports the crash may have been live streamed. It's unclear if impairment was a factor, ABC News reported. The motive and the connection to the graffiti remain under investigation. Armed Bedouin clans withdrew from the Druze majority city of Swaida on Sunday after a week of deadly clashes with Druze militias and a U.S. brokered ceasefire. The fighting, sparked by kidnappings and escalating sectarian violence, killed hundreds and displaced over 128,000 people. Israel launched airstrikes in the region, and Syrian government forces intervened. Humanitarian aid convoys began entering the battered city amid cautious calm. Tensions remain high, with Bedouin fighters demanding the surrender of a Druze leader, whom they blame for the unrest, ABC News has reported. The violence has deepened Druze skepticism toward Syria's post-Assad leadership. 21-year-old suspect Miguel Francisco Mora Nunez is in custody after allegedly shooting an off-duty U.S. Border Patrol agent late Saturday night in New York City's Fort Washington Park. The agent was shot in the face and arm, but is expected to recover. Surveillance video captured the attempted robbery and a shootout, helping police quickly identify the suspect. Mora Nunez, who entered the United States illegally in 2023, has prior arrest and is wanted for multiple violent crimes in New York and Massachusetts. He was found at a Bronx hospital with gunshot wounds matching those seen in a video, ABC News has reported. His accomplice remains at large. Police in Washington state are searching for a suspect who stole a fire truck Friday night in Everett, about 30 miles north of Seattle. The suspect drove the stolen 2018 Pierce Enforcer pumper at high speeds through residential streets, damaging multiple parked cars, trees, signs, and landscaping across at least 6 locations before fleeing on foot. No injuries were reported. The heavily damaged fire truck has been impounded for evidence. Authorities urge anyone with information or footage to come forward as the investigation continues, NBC News has reported. Fire and police chiefs emphasized the danger and vowed to hold the suspect accountable while exploring ways to prevent similar incidents. Representative Tim Burchett, a Republican from Tennessee, reiterated his call on Sunday for the Department of Justice to release evidence related to Jeffrey Epstein, while urging caution to protect victims' identities. Speaking on ABC's This Week, Burchett dismissed President Trump's criticism of Republicans demanding transparency, calling it misguided. He welcomed President Trump's recent move to unseal grand jury evidence as a, quote, start, ABC News has reported. While critical of Attorney General Pam Bondi's initial handling of the case, Burchett stopped short of calling for her resignation, saying he hopes she, quote, finishes strong. Tomasini, a former top Biden aide, invoked the Fifth Amendment multiple times during a closed-door deposition with the House Oversight Committee on Friday, becoming the third ex-Biden official to do so. Lawmakers are investigating whether Biden's inner circle concealed signs of cognitive decline and mishandled classified documents. Tomasini declined to answer questions about whether she was instructed to lie about President Biden's health or conceal information related to classified materials or the Biden family's business dealings, Fox News has reported. Committee Chair James Comer called it part of a pattern of stonewalling, while Biden allies dismissed the probe as politically motivated.